what you call a peaceful life is actually just a polite form of surrender. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything around you feels familiar but frozen. Months, maybe even years, have passed, and yet deep down, you are still the same person you used to be. The dreams that once stirred your imagination now appear as faded silhouettes on the horizon. The goals you once set have dissolved into the background noise of routine. You exist, but you don't feel alive. It's as if you're watching your own life unfold through a pane of glass, working, interacting, smiling, but not really participating. Why does this happen? Why do some people break free from stagnation, make bold moves, and reshape their destiny, while others, just as intelligent and capable, remain stuck, endlessly postponing what they know they should do? The answer isn't out there. It won't be found in motivational books or casual advice. It lives inside you, and its name is internal paralysis. Not laziness, not fear, but a deeply ingrained habit of resisting change, a tendency to stay still while pretending it's just being careful. What makes this condition so dangerous is how quietly it creeps in. Like a shadow, it seeps into decisions, behaviors, and reactions. It wears clever disguises. I'm being cautious, I'm waiting for the right moment, I'm thinking it through. But in reality, it's a soft but steady form of self-sabotage. This state was famously explored by American psychologist Martin Seligman. In his well-known experiment, dogs were exposed to repeated, uncontrollable negative experiences. Eventually, even when given a clear way out, they stopped trying to escape. They had learned to be helpless. The same thing happens to people. After repeated failures, criticism, or pain, they stop trying, convinced that any effort is pointless. But failure isn't the only source of passivity. In fact, one of the most dangerous causes is comfort. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to stay in routines that no longer bring you joy? Humans are wired to crave stability. In the past, this kept our ancestors alive. But today, it often works against us. Modern comfort is a trap. It feels harmless, it doesn't hurt, doesn't demand. Your job might not fulfill you, but it's familiar. Your habits are uninspired, but manageable. Nothing is wrong, but nothing is right. That's the problem. You slowly slip into a tolerable existence, thinking it's fine, all the while drifting further from who you could become. Take Theodore Roosevelt. As a child, he was frail, asthmatic, and unlikely to become anyone's idea of a leader. But he refused to accept that. He built strength day by day, challenging his own limits. Eventually, he became a president, writer, and explorer. Why? Because he realized inaction is not neutral. It's a slow descent into regret. But many people do the opposite. That's just not for me, they say. Or, one day I'll start, but not today. And just like that, their journey ends before it even begins. The issue isn't lack of time, resources, or inspiration. The issue is the refusal to take responsibility and the illusion that there's still plenty of time, that you can wait just a little longer until one day you look back and nothing has changed. Think about how many times you've fallen into this trap. Not because of fear, not because of laziness, but because of a whisper inside that said, you can endure it a little longer. But endurance, when it replaces movement, is a quiet form of self-destruction. In the chapters that follow, we'll break down how this inner paralysis forms, how it hides behind logic and rationality, and most importantly, how to dismantle it. Because until you start moving, no one else can do it for you. What if your well-reasoned arguments are nothing more than fear in disguise? Have you ever caught yourself rationalizing your inaction? You didn't just skip the task, you had reasons. Logical ones. It's not the right time. I need to think it through. I'm just being careful. Over time, you become a master at it. turning hesitation into a philosophy of patience. But here's the danger. Passivity rarely announces itself. It doesn't knock down doors or scream in your face. It's subtle, refined, quiet. It whispers in the voice of reason, cloaking itself in doubt, analysis, and calculated delay. And the cruel irony, the more intelligent you are, the more likely you are to fall for it. The smarter the mind, the more elaborate the excuses. We live in the age of analysis, instructions, reviews, tutorials, endless content. Everything you could ever need is right at your fingertips. You can map out any destination. And yet, more people than ever are standing still. Why? Because there's a fine line between thoughtful planning and strategic avoidance, between caution and fear that's learned to wear a suit and tie. Let's look at a historical example. Take Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming president, he faced repeated failures, business collapses, personal tragedy, election defeats. It would have been completely logical for him to stop, to say, maybe this just isn't for me. That would have been rational, sensible. But he didn't stop. Why? Because he didn't confuse defeat with destiny. He understood that temporary loss doesn't mean lifelong limitation. Passivity is cunning. It often pretends to be just making sure. You say things like, I need to plan it out more. I want to be 100% ready. I'll start when the timing is perfect. But the truth is, that moment never arrives. Or it does, but you miss it. Because your idea of ready keeps moving further away. You might think, I'm just not feeling motivated, but motivation isn't fuel. It's the smoke that follows fire. First comes movement, then comes motivation. People wait for the perfect state of mind. Once I'm inspired, I'll begin. But the wave of inspiration rarely comes. And when it does, it vanishes in 15 minutes because without the habit of action, inspiration is just wind. Here's another trap: identity paralysis. You tell yourself, I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not a leader. I'm not entrepreneurial. But here's the real question. Who do you want to become, if not someone who chooses themselves? Psychologists call this identity paralysis. You attach your actions to your current self-image, and in doing so, you prevent yourself from becoming more. Real change happens when you act before you feel like the kind of person who would. You don't wait until you become disciplined to wake up at 6 a.m. You wake up, and that's how you become disciplined. Motivational speaker Mel Robbins introduced a concept called the 5-second rule. When you feel the impulse to do something meaningful, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then move. Don't give your brain the chance to sabotage it. The longer you wait, the more likely you are to stay exactly where you are. Passivity isn't just a lack of movement, it's a skilled saboteur. And the more rational you are, the more sophisticated your excuses become. What if the most dangerous place is the one where nothing really hurts? Have you ever wondered why it's so easy to remain in a life that doesn't bring you joy, but doesn't cause pain either? That strange middle ground we call fine. Life goes on. You have a job, a routine, some moments of laughter. On the surface, everything seems stable, but deep inside, it feels like you're just waiting. For what? You're not even sure. Here's the paradox. We don't leave situations just because they lack happiness. We stay as long as they're not unbearable. As long as nothing's too bad, we stay. This is the essence of one of the most dangerous psychological traps, the comfort trap. Psychologists affirm that humans are drawn to predictability. Our brains are hardwired for safety. In ancient times, this ensured survival. The unknown was a potential threat. Unfamiliar paths could lead to predators or death. But in the modern world, this mechanism often holds us back. You won't risk your career, So you stay in a job where you're no longer respected. You won't end a relationship because it's complicated. You won't start a new venture because it's not the right time. But stability is not the same as growth. Look at Stephen King. His early stories were rejected dozens of times. He once threw the manuscript for Carrie into the trash, convinced it wasn't good enough. His wife pulled it out and urged him to finish it. He could have settled, could have stayed a school teacher. It was safe, predictable, but he took the risk. He stepped outside his comfort zone, and that changed everything. Comfort deceives. It whispers, just stay here a little longer. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And for that illusion of safety, you pay the highest price of all, your potential. The danger lies in adapting to a life you don't truly want. You stop striving. Instead of taking action, you begin to justify inaction. At least I have a steady paycheck. It could be worse. Everyone else is struggling too. This is how dreams erode, not through crisis, but through convenience. Soon, you're no longer someone who wants more. You're someone who can endure more. You replace growth with survival. Look at anyone who has accomplished something meaningful. Every single one of them has walked through discomfort. They've faced uncertainty, resistance, fear, but they moved forward because they understood if you feel uneasy, it means you're growing, and if everything feels calm, you're probably stuck. The issue is that most people confuse discomfort with danger and comfort with safety, but they're not the same. The real threat is often found in the places that don't demand change. That's where initiative dies. You don't collapse, you simply fade. You become a spectator in your own life. Be honest, how many things have you postponed? How many ideas have you buried, even though deep down you know they could change everything? While you're nestled in comfort, there are no alarms, but a quiet unease starts growing within you, and it gets louder over time. That voice, it's the sound of stagnation, and you need to hear it before it becomes your new normal. What if it's not just change you fear, but becoming someone else? Why do people stay stuck even when they clearly see that their life isn't moving forward? Why, after realizing that comfort is a trap, logic is a mask for fear, and motivation comes after action, not before? Do they still hesitate? They already know the truth, they've seen the patterns, but something inside still whispers, wait, you're not ready. This isn't who you are. Here enters the most subtle and powerful force of all, identity. You're not just held back by habit, you're held back by the image you've built of yourself. Sometimes one you created, sometimes one that others planted in your mind. You've always been indecisive. You're not a leader. You're not the type to take risks. You're too kind to be assertive. These labels sink into your subconscious early in life, and even when you grow, they still echo, quiet, familiar, persistent. This creates a psychological freeze, not because you can't become someone else, but because deep down, you don't believe you're allowed to. Psychologist Carol Dweck uncovered this in her work on mindsets. Some people live with a growth mindset. They believe personality, skills, and willpower can be developed. Others live with a fixed mindset. They believe people just are the way they are. This leads to a deep-rooted block. You don't just fear failure, you fear violating your own identity. You're afraid of becoming someone new because there's a voice that says, what if I try and fail? Then I'll lose even the illusion that I could succeed someday. But the truth is, we choose who we are every day. Your identity isn't carved in stone. It's a reflection of repeated choices. You're not undisciplined. You've just postponed things too often. You're not uncreative. You've simply never created space to express it. You're not insecure. You've just stayed silent too many times. You want to change your life. Start by changing your actions, not your thoughts, because you won't believe in the new you until your behavior begins to reflect it. James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, don't set a goal to lose 10 kilos. Set a goal to become the kind of person who never misses a workout. Don't think I have to write a book. Start with, I'm someone who writes daily. Identity is born in action, not in thought. Every step you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. But here comes the next barrier: emotional resistance. Even when you know what to do, why do you still not do it? Because action triggers uncomfortable feelings. Fear of judgment, fear of disappointment, fear that you'll fail and lose your last bit of hope, or even fear that you'll succeed and be forced to live a different kind of life. Neuroscience confirms this. Your brain doesn't distinguish between psychological threat and physical threat. When you're about to step into the unknown, your amygdala lights up, the part of the brain responsible for fear. Your body tenses, logic shuts down, and you retreat into maybe later. But here's the truth: fear isn't a stop sign. It's simply a signal that you're entering new territory. And every time you act despite fear, you don't just make progress, you rewire your brain. You teach it. We can do this, it's safe. This is the path. This is known as psychological flexibility, the ability to move forward even when you don't feel completely ready. Look at anyone who's transformed their life. They didn't start with confidence or clarity. They didn't wait until the fear was gone. They simply began and built the strength along the way. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "Become who you are." It's not a contradiction, it's a call to action, because your essence is not who you've been. It's who you decide to become, despite your past, despite your doubts, despite the voice of hesitation. Your identity is malleable. It evolves, but only if you let it grow beyond where you've been. What if no one is coming to save you? There you are, full of awareness. You felt the sting of unfulfilled dreams. You understand what's holding you back. You've realized it's not about circumstances or time or comfort or even fear. Those are just symptoms of something deeper. You've been waiting for someone or something to rescue you from your own inaction. But no one is coming. As long as you hope that life will magically sort itself out, you're just a spectator. But life isn't a movie. No one is writing a script for you. No music will start playing at the turning point. You are the director, the writer, and the actor. And unless you take control, you'll remain an extra in your own story. Radical responsibility isn't a trendy phrase. It's the moment of truth. The point where you say, everything that happens is within my influence. Not control, but influence. And every I didn't, I postponed, I hesitated, isn't just a coincidence. It's a choice. That's a hard pill to swallow because it strips away your excuses. No more blaming school, parents, exes, bosses, the system. Just you, your reaction, your actions, or your refusal to act. But in that truth lies freedom, because if you are the source, then you are also the solution. You're not stuck. You're not powerless. You can move. You can choose. You can begin, not next week, not next year. Now, Jeff Bezos once said, if you wait until you're 100% certain to make a decision, you'll always be too late. That doesn't just apply to business, it applies to life. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll be waiting forever. But action brings clarity, and one step gives birth to the next, not the other way around. Worried about making mistakes? Remember, mistakes aren't failure, mistakes are feedback. The only real failure is refusing to try. Thomas Edison conducted over 10,000 failed experiments before inventing the light bulb. He said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Success isn't about knowing how, it's about moving forward, even when you don't. So now what? Now you choose, not based on feelings, not based on certainty, based on commitment. And if you truly want to change, let go of 3 things: waiting for motivation, identifying as not that kind of person, hoping someone else will help, and replace them with 3 others. Action as a habit, a new identity created through behavior, and full, unapologetic responsibility. You don't have to start big. In fact, don't. Start small, but start. Not in your head, not on a to-do list, in your life. Send the message you've been putting off. Take the step that scares you. Say no where you've always stayed silent. Make the decision you've been postponing. Do it not for success, not for likes, not for approval, but for one simple reason. Because you deserve to live a life shaped by freedom, not fear. The life you want isn't waiting somewhere in the future. It's already here. It just demands that you step out of the shadow of your passivity. If you've made it this far, it means you're already one step closer to your real self. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Let me know which idea shifted your perspective. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. There's much more to come. Real, raw, and transformational content. See you in the next video. To live is to act.